Welcome back to Cephas Unscripted. Now, this is a weird time to come back, Brevin, because both of us should be in bed, cuddled up, right? Because we are sick. Well, you a bit more than me, because I've just come down with it today. But everyone, Happy New Year, Brevin. Happy New Year. What are we saying, my brother?
Yeah, obviously I've just come back from Cape Town and obviously where you live. And yeah, it was a great time. Even got to see Shark Stormers at the DHL Stadium. That was incredible. Just an amazing December. And yeah, back to the grind. And both of us are sick, but we did promise we would be back sooner rather than later, and here we are. So
Yeah.
yeah, we are back. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, right, we're filming this on Monday. We'll probably put it out on Wednesday morning, right? Because we don't like that Tuesday bullshit. Just feels a bit weird. So we'll do it on a Wednesday, people. So if you hear us sniffing, we are sorry.
I'll
It is
try
what
to
it is.
mute as much as I can. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, everyone, we hope you have a beautiful and loving 2025. Hope you take it by the balls and absolutely smash it. We thought, listen, are we going to go straight into Champions Cup or whatever? No. We're going to do we did this predictions last year as well. My predictions didn't go too great. But we're going to do predictions for the year. You know, I said Damian Willems is going to be player of the year. The guy didn't play a single game because he was injured the whole time. So, yeah, it is what it is. But we're gonna predict this year. And just to run through what we are going to predict, it's Six Nations winners, Six Nations wooden spoon, Rugby Championship, the same winners and a wooden spoon, URC winners, Champions Cup winners, Player of the Year, the Sevens Champions Cup, a player to watch from South Africa, a player to watch from the world, and then I've just decided to add this on the spot, a little team to watch, a team that might break through this season or this year and have a, let's say we predict them to do badly, but they might actually do pretty well. Anyway, let's start off. February is the month that and March of the Six Nations. So let's jump straight into the
Yeah.
Six Nations. What's the team you're
Cool.
looking out for? What's the team that you thinking takes this home?
Oof. Taking it home. Oh, that is interesting because I
Oh yeah, by the
genuinely.
way, we're gonna predict British and Irish Lions versus Australia as well.
Okay, yeah, that's easy. But uh, this is an interesting one because I feel like a lot of those teams are, well, obviously the four teams that represent the British and Irish Lions will be
Yeah.
playing their socks off to kind of get that spot or their spot in that British and Irish Lions team. So I think you'll see a lot of players really step up the Six Nations. But in all honesty, uh, obviously, I don't have the fixtures in front of me because obviously you alternate home and away every single year. But I genuinely do think it's between three teams. I was obviously we didn't see England win a whole lot in the November series, but I was very impressed by um, from what I saw what they could do against New Zealand,
Yeah.
against the Springboks. So I think with the right kind of game management, because a lot of those games are in Australia as well. A lot of those games we saw their game management be terrible. We saw kind of the wrong kind of way to close out the game. And if they did it properly, they probably would have won that game against Australia and New Zealand. So I think, as much as people laugh at England and stuff, I do think they are going to be within the top three, that's for sure. But it's probably between Ireland and France. And I'm going to go out here and I'm probably going to say,
I've got the fixtures in front of me. So if you
well,
have
what's
any
that
questions,
Irish? Yeah, what is the French-Irish game? Who's home and away?
so I'll just shoot straight forward. Okay, I'm going Ireland to win the Six Nations. I think France are very strong, but if you look at the
Yeah.
tough games for Ireland, they're playing France and they're playing England at home. I
Okay.
think that is
There's
massive. To have that at the Aviva,
yeah.
yeah. I just can't
Yeah.
see it going any other way. I know the French team, they looked very good against New Zealand, but they also looked beatable against New Zealand. I know Ireland lost against New Zealand, but then again, you give credit to New Zealand, right? In both of those games. But I think the home ground advantage in both of those fixtures looks saucy. Therefore, I think Ireland takes it.
Yo, so I was probably going to say Ireland as well because they have that home ground advantage. But, and I'll get to this when we talk about our player of the year. I think as much as a lot of, we could say, Saffers or some people in the world are pretty much against this player, which I don't think we should be. I think we should appreciate his talent. But obviously, I don't think necessarily he was the best last year. But I think Antoine Dupont has a lot of, I think he's got a lot to prove. Not that he necessarily needs to, but I think he's got this thing in the back of his mind, like he'll want to prove that he is the best. And I can just see him igniting this French team to another level this year. And I think
He
they
didn't
might
play
pop it.
he didn't play the
Yeah,
previous Six
exactly.
Nations, you know. So he's
Exactly.
got that dog in him. He's actually traveling down to South Africa now to play against the
Crazy,
Sharks,
you know?
which is
Yeah.
obviously magical. If I had the money, I'd fly straight to Durban and go and watch that in 40 degrees in Indian weather. Like, it's crazy out there. Have you seen the temperatures
It's,
in Durban? They
yeah,
have
it's
no
crazy
right to
hot.
be this hot.
Yeah. But yeah, I just genuinely think he's going to ignite that French team to another level. We saw what he could do with that French team in the November series, and yeah, I think the French might just take this Six Nations, but I would not be surprised at all if Ireland win it. But I'm going to try and just be a little bit different here, and I just think Dupont is that important that he can ignite France to that Six Nations title. So yeah, I'm going to go France.
Well, let me ask you this, right? How strong do you reckon England will be taking on France? Because England's playing at Twickenham. Now, the previous time they played at Twickenham, if I'm not mistaken, that's the time that the French put 50 on them. But don't you think the English, they'll be hungry this time around? Because I've seen a lot of people predict that England might actually win the Six Nations. Now, I don't agree with that at all. Like, at all. But I wouldn't be surprised if they make a couple of games very, very tight. And I think the redemption arc could be very, very sexy if they take on France at Twickenham and they actually win that game.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, that's why I brought up England in the discussion. Is I saw enough to kind of be like convinced by what they're trying to do. Obviously, like I said, I think the Australian game and the New Zealand game purely came down to game management. But I just think they're a good side, and I know a lot
Yeah.
of people that don't like Borthwick, but they have talent. They have so much talent in young players. They've got good players. Obviously, the English and the Saffers, we don't like each other, but obviously we give credit where credit is due, and they took the Springboks, Australia and New Zealand all to the wire. So got to give them credit there. And I do
Lost all
see
three,
them
though.
kind of exactly, and that's why I say the game management is a big thing. So if they can kind of fix that, I do see some results bouncing their way. However, there is a reason I have them third, is I don't see them being able to win that game against France or England. Um, no, France or Ireland, sorry. And yeah, I do expect a big improvement from them though, because
Mm.
you can't keep England down in the dumps for too long. We've seen it for a long time.
Yeah. Wooden spoon, is that a given? Does Wales take wooden spoon quite easily? Do you think there might be a little surprise in the mix?
Well, obviously it's between Italy and Wales. Uh, I actually don't know but then again, when we played Wales, I kind of thought we just weren't at it. You were like, this game is not meant like we don't. I swear that was the attitude going to that game where we were just like operating at like first gear and we just didn't really care. So I don't think we can read too much into that. So yeah, I'm gonna say Wales. I don't think Wales are, unless I see more from what Gatlin's trying to do. But literally from since he's kind of tried to rebuild this team, it's just not. It's not happening for him. And
Do you
it's
reckon
yeah.
they go 2 years in a row without a victory?
Well, where's that Italian and Welsh game being played? Sorry. If you can...
Italy and Wales is being played in Italy.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm going Italy for sure. I mean, Wales
Italy
to
beat
be.
Scotland. If I'm not, Italy beat Scotland, right? We haven't even spoke about Scotland. I think this year that Calcutta Cup little derby, that is a sexy one as well. But
That's at Twickenham, man.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, I
Do you
think
reckon it
England will
finally
take them.
switches hands?
I think it goes back to England this year. Yeah.
Finally, after all these years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
I
shame
agree
because
with you. I agree with you. Wales for the wooden spoon. I do believe Wales will look a bit better this year. I think if for them, they probably just need a full refurbishment. Just say, listen, youngsters, we've got nothing to lose. All this experience, we still didn't win a game last season. I'd say new coach, youngsters coming through the door, and you should be, I wouldn't say fine, but just like expect not to be great, but just build towards the future. That's kind of what needs to happen, in my opinion. If they get a full season out of Jack Morgan, you never know what can happen. And a prime Aaron Wainwright with a couple of youngsters around them, it could turn out to be better. Whatever. Rugby Championship. Is it staying in South Africa?
Oof.
We're playing 2 games
know.
against the All Blacks. We're playing at Eden Park. Oh, that is feisty. I know we talk about a lot of derbies and stuff. We always say, listen, nothing matches South Africa versus the All Blacks, even though it's a bit more respectful than, let's say, England, Wales, England, Scotland, because that's like fierce rivalry, right? I always look forward to those games, almost as much as South Africa versus New Zealand. But an Eden Park game, knowing that we've beaten them 4 times in a row now, they've looked a lot better. The All Blacks have looked a lot better. And I'm pretty sure they'll just kick on. Cam Roy got back there. Wouldn't even be surprised if we just see Richie Mo'unga just pop in there this year.
Yeah, well, I don't know I can see it being approved at some point, but obviously
I
talking
reckon they
about.
just slice that thing and say, listen, Richie Mo'unga, you're the best in the world. Come back.
But that's the thing. I can see them eventually just saying, look, this whole you need to play in New Zealand whole thing where where you can get selected for the All Blacks if you play outside and currently you can't. But I can see them scrapping that whole rule and allowing some players to come back, and I think they need to. I think Scott Robinson's probably in agreement and wants to do it. So. Look, at the end of the day, regardless of whatever that is, this is going to be, if we can win this rugby championship, it's going to be probably our best one yet, because because you're talking about, obviously, I think we'll win the 2 Australian games. I think we'll win the 2 Argentina games. I think we'll learn our lesson. No, I just think we need to learn our lesson from the previous Argentinian game. But that New Zealand game, or 2 New Zealand games, it's at Eden Park and then obviously in Wellington, if I'm not mistaken. Those are important games. And if we can just win 1, I think we'll win the Rugby Championship.
Do you reckon
I think we will win.
Do you reckon New Zealand will be dropping points somewhere else then?
I don't know. It's so close. I actually don't know. I fully expect a better New Zealand this year. I do expect. They've now had a year of Scott Robinson and they're getting used to what he's about. And I think now with the kind of understanding the structures, and they'll have a proper sit down. And let's be honest, like the Springboks have had their downfalls in 2017, etc., where we were like absolutely nowhere. And I think not that New Zealand have been nowhere because they made a World Cup final. Yes, they've lost a few games, but they've never been that far off. They didn't lose 57-0 to the Springboks or whatever. So,
and they will never.
Exactly. So I do, but this is their little grey patch. Or you can also look at it as the rest of the world is kind of catching up to them and like kind of finally finding a middle ground where they can't run away with it again. But I'm going to say, cut the BS. I think the Springboks will win the rugby championship. I back our team, and I think it's important for us to win. You know, if we always say we want to be the best in the world for like a long amount of time, and I think it's important that we win it. And I'm sure Russie will think the same. And this is if we can break that record at Eden Park, I think what else can the Springboks achieve? You know, I don't know what else they could achieve other than a three-peat. So
Yeah, well, obviously, what's it? 2026. They're traveling down for a 3-match test series.
yeah.
So that would be a beautiful little setup. Listen, I don't want to sound. Well, it's not going to sound arrogant at all, but I reckon South Africa keep it. Also based around what Rassie said. He's not going to muck about with 50 players again. We are going to stick to our strong suit. It's not going to be where we go to Argentina and we have a fully switched 23-man squad or whatever. Maybe we do that, but those guys will also have had a lot of game time. We're not going to play 50 boys in the squad. They will all have game time, right? Yeah. The strongest boys building to that 3-match test series against New Zealand, building towards the next World Cup. I think there's a couple of guys that need to come through still, in my opinion. I would love to see, well, let's not spoil it yet. He's on my players to watch. But yeah, I think this will be a massive season for the Springboks. Obviously, our end of year tour will also be stronger. So we know we need to have a strong team that has that chemistry. I don't want to see any of these rotational stuff. We have seen the rotation. Obviously, if you have an injury crisis, we're writing a different book then. We're telling a different story. But if all of our boys are fit, I want to see some young guys coming through with our experienced boys and then just smashing it out of the park. I think there's no better way than to solidify your place as number one as to going to New Zealand and beating them twice there and getting that Eden Park record. I'm not saying we're going to do that. Obviously, I'm not going to take any respect away from New Zealand. I mean, that record is crazy, the one that they have at Eden Park. But I think if you can go back to back and you can beat New Zealand twice in New Zealand as well. Because obviously there was this caveat of people saying South Africa won the rugby championship, but was it really that convincing? We didn't play that well. We lost the game against Argentina. It was close games and we had the home ground advantage. I want to play that Uno reverse card. I want to say, listen, let's go there and actually get it done. And I don't want to win. For instance, I'm not even sure where the other game is. Is it in Wellington? I don't want to win in Wellington. Yeah. I want to win at Eden Park.
Yeah.
Give me that big boy.
I think that first game is at Eden Park, which is obviously that's massive, you know. So we can't kind of rely on a second fixture to, they got one over us. Like we want to win that first one, and obviously records are meant to be broken, you know. And
which one's first?
I think it's the Eden Park one, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure, but don't quote me on it. But I do remember seeing Eden Park being the first game, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I just think if one team can do it, it's the Springboks at the moment. Because of what 2 World Cups, a Rugby Championship, British and Irish Lions series.
And also probably just the way that we play, eh?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Obviously, New Zealand once upon a time were the best in the world, and they were very proud of it. And obviously, South Africans are very proud that currently we're the best in the world. So I think it's important that we kind of back ourselves, you know. We can't go there thinking we're the underdogs, because right now I don't think there's an underdog in that game. I think that's just two giants kind of going at it, and whoever the best team wins, you know. So look, I think that we need to go in there with a ruthless mindset to kind of just say, look, if we take that record, that team can be looked at like as, even though they already are, they can finally be looked at properly as like, whoa, you know, because that is a big record. That obviously means a lot to New Zealand. So yeah.
Do you reckon we are writing off Argentina and Australia at the moment? Yes. No, we're not writing them off. They're just not going to be there. I've got Australia, Argentina, to get the wooden spoon. I think Australia's going to have a big year.
I was the first one to say no last year, where I was like, I'm not really convinced by them. But I did see a lot of improvements, to be fair. But then I saw that Scottish game and I was like, okay. But yeah, we'll see. I agree with you. I do think Argentina might just find themselves finishing in that wooden spoon spot.
But not in a disrespectful way.
Yeah, look, I
don't want
think
to say,
the
because
gap.
Argentina were impressive this year. They were impressive, right? A lot better than we kind of expected them to be. But then again, it is also just one game on, one game off, one game on, one game off. That's just kind of how they've been. And I think if Joe Schmidt can get some consistency out of this Australian team, right? And he's got a fully fit Fraser McWright. He's got his centre pairing that he actually wants. I mean, that Australian game, remember they had a little centre crisis. Swali'i went off injured, and then all of a sudden they had nothing, right? So they had to play with, I think it was Andrew Kellaway that played outside centre, who's never played there. Well, not as far as I know. And to not have an actual outside centre, and what who is it? Len Ikitau's actually an outside centre but played inside centre. All of a sudden your defensive shape is just all doom and gloom, right? You don't really know where to go from there on. So I expect a massive year from Australia. Not that they're gonna do amazing things necessarily in the Rugby Championship, but I do expect them to put up a couple of absolutely solid performances, pulling the All Blacks close, maybe pulling South Africa close. You never know, right? Because when they're on it, they're a scary team. They're a sexy team to watch.
Yeah, and that's the thing I was saying, the gap between the four teams is as close as it's ever been, So it's not like we're saying, oh, New Zealand and South Africa will run away with it by dominating every single game against the others. I think that game against Argentina in Argentina is going to be tough for everyone, or for us, because I know we played there once and won at home. I think the Australians traveling to South Africa, I do expect them to kind of put up a bit of a fight, but I think that's a big ask for them to come and win in South Africa. And
their
then
record isn't too great here, is it?
not that I don't think that's very great, but obviously when they were winning it was when they had the superstars that they had once upon a time, whereas now, that they don't really have that. So I do expect it to be every game to be pretty, whether it's just the first half, I do expect it to be close. And unfortunately, I just see Arge being that team to just kind of slip off, because we do tend to see them have this amazing game and then they go and absolutely completely forget that they are a good team and perform terribly in the next. So if they can improve that, it could be a different story, but only time will tell.
Yeah. We're going to move on to the URC and the Champions Cup now, but before we go into that, I forgot to say something at the start. I don't know if people have, obviously they can't see it, but Brevan is engaged, people. Brevan got engaged on the 2nd of January in Cape Town, the mother city, the most beautiful place to be. Brevan, very much a congratulations from the whole Sapphirs Unscripted audience.
Community. Yeah.
Community.
Thank you.
The rugby community. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. Great to do it in Cape Town, obviously, because it's a beautiful place, somewhere I've always wanted to kind of spend my life eventually. So hopefully that does happen one day. But amazing place, and I'm just super grateful. And
may there be a lot of blessings on your way, brother. It's beautiful. Okay. I was sitting there in 40-degree heat at another wedding, by the way. Just saw Brevan sending me 2 random pictures. I completely forgot the guy told me, listen, I'm going to propose. I just saw it. I was like, a heart full of joy. The boy's done it.
Yeah. Yes,
anyway,
yes.
Let's move on to the URC. This is saucy, right? Because we've obviously seen a bit of the URC now. Some teams have started fixing up their form. Love that.
Yes.
Who do you reckon takes it this season?
Did we do our predictions on the URC? I can't remember. Did we
No,
predict the
we missed the
winner?
previous round, so we didn't predict the Stormers.
No. What I mean is, like a winner in general before the competition started. I can't remember, but I did
No,
think. I think I remember I said I predict Leinster to win it, or was
maybe
that the
we did,
Champions
because
Cup?
I also remember saying Leinster's not going to do it in the Champions Cup, but they're going to do it in the
Yeah.
URC.
Anyways, I'm still
I'm
I'm
going Leinster.
I'm also
I
going
reckon.
Leinster because I'm not convinced by our SAFA teams. I am very disappointed in the performances I'm seeing from the SAFA teams. And I fully expect to see a Leinster Glasgow final. I'll be 100% honest. Maybe another
Well,
Irish team.
Glasgow's
I don't
got
know.
beat by Edinburgh now.
Yeah, I know, but
Did they get beat
everyone,
or did they draw? I think they got beat
I
by
can't remember.
Edinburgh. I'm going.
But
I'm
yeah,
getting Leinster to do it. I think it has to be this year for them. They have to get one trophy. Obviously, they would love that Champions Cup, right? I'm not writing them
yeah,
off for the Champions Cup at all. Don't get me wrong.
yeah,
But they look like the team to beat in the URC. They've just cruised along very, very nicely. And yeah, obviously, they haven't won a lot of games, for instance, in South Africa or whatever, because they don't send their strongest team. But they don't need to, right? I think if they have
yeah.
that home ground advantage now, and they're playing those games at the RDS or the Aviva, wherever they're going to play, I just reckon they do it. They just do it this year. They're saying, listen, fuck it. We're going full strength. We're playing these teams and we're winning at least one trophy. And then focusing up for the double. If I'm not mistaken, the season's also, spread out nicely for them to play their strongest in the Champions Cup and the URC. I could be mistaken. I'm not sure. I don't have the fixtures in front of me. But the
Yeah.
way they've played, I don't think they've played necessarily the most sexy rugby, but they haven't needed to. I think you said it also. Like they haven't even needed to get out of second gear, and still they are top of the pool easily, and they're just
100%. Yeah.
cruising along nicely. Geordie Barrett has come in; he's been brilliant, right? So I've got them doing it this year. I don't
I
know who's in the
agree.
final. I don't know.
Yeah, well, like I said, I expect Glasgow, maybe another Irish team to be in there. But yeah, I mean, just that they've added two serious serial winners, like Achias Snyman and Geordie Barrett, are like two huge influences on a team, and that can do a lot for a team. And I think that will just give them more confidence. They already have such
Both
a
are
great
serial
side.
winners as well.
Sorry?
Both of them are serial winners as well. They know how to win.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, 100%. And I just look at the Bulls and I look at how they did against Northampton and the Sharks, and I can keep going on. And I'm just not impressed by the way they're playing. I'm not impressed by what they're trying to put forward. And then I look at looking at the Sharks and Stormers game. Obviously, cannot believe this, but I was literally supporting the Stormers in this game, and I literally had a Stormers hat. And I must say, like, if any of you guys go to Cape Town and Stormers are playing, I highly suggest you go, because for the
It's a
first
vibe.
time since I no
It's
for
a
the first
party.
time it's the first time since I was what I mean I've been going to rugby games since I was a kid, and I used to love going to Loftus and Ellis Park because that's where the region I've lived. And I walked into that stadium and I was like, this brings me back to my childhood, because I just saw the stadium where the noise is trapped because it's like this
It's
massive
a little
stadium,
dome.
and it's loud, and you can't hear anything, and the atmosphere was insane, and it brought me
It's a
back to
bit
my
different,
childhood.
right?
And
Because obviously I haven't been to Ellis Park or Loftus, but Ellis Park and Loftus feels like it's booming and it's a passion fest, right? Just like passionate fans everywhere. Stormers, us in Cape Town, we're a bit more laid back, right? So it's more like a party vibe. You'll just hear banging tunes play the whole time, right? And it's just a complete vibe. Everyone just wants to get a bit drunk. It is fantastic. It is fantastic.
yeah,
I made it my mission this year to say, listen, I'm going to watch so much more live games, because yesterday I was at the cricket as well.
uh,
Fantastic. So
yeah, like
yeah,
cricket's always great on like Boxing Day or New Year's. But like I just talking on the game itself, I literally was supporting the Stormers, and because obviously the injustice that happened to the Bulls and we won't get into it because I'm not going to go into the justice that happened to the Bulls against the Sharks with regards to that penalty try. If anyone remembers, I did not agree with that. But yeah, I just thought the Stormers were the better team, and I think you guys should have won by a lot more. Like a lot. Marnie obviously missed a lot of kicks again. But he had a good game with ball in hand, I must say.
Very good. Very
Yeah,
good.
he did have a good game with ball in
You
hand.
just look at that final try of him, then you just know the magic that he can produce, right? Because it's just out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I was happy that you guys won. I think it was deserved. And yeah, I think you guys are finding the right kind of form now. And I think Sasha needs to be left alone. Let the kid heal before you put him back on a field.
Yeah.
Because I cannot see another injury happen to him where he looks like he's about to have another season-ending injury. Like, I don't want to see it. But yeah, luckily there's a bit of a break now. You guys play again next weekend. Not sure if you'll play or not, but whatever. But the point, what I'm trying to say is, yeah, this weekend. Sorry. I thought we were on Sunday, and I'm like, no, we're on Monday. But yeah, the rugby that I'm seeing South African teams play is just not convincing me enough to say we will win the URC. I'm just not convinced yet. Yeah.
Well, then
So
obviously
that's why.
they probably don't convince you enough for the Champions Cup either, and me neither. I do reckon the Sharks, I've said this a million times, that they will perform in the Champions Cup. Obviously, they got smashed against Leicester Tigers, right? But I think when the big games come, when the big games come,
they didn't send a big team, yeah.
They're going to do it. Well, that's even. Imagine if I say this and they get grouped. That would not be fun.
Then Plumtree needs to start looking elsewhere, in my opinion, because with that team,
I thought they might have this Toulouse game. I thought they might have this Toulouse game, but all of a sudden, with the big boys of Toulouse traveling, I'm like, oh, I'm not too sure. Now they've got to go and muster up the courage to win against who else is in that group? Can't remember now.
Exeter they beat. They lost to Leicester. They have Toulouse, who I can't call that game, I'll be honest. So yeah, it's looking tough, but I think they'll make it through.
Ulster's in there. Well, whatever, right? I've got Toulouse to win it. I've got them to go back to back.
Okay.
Doing it again. They just look unstoppable. They've scored 19 tries in 2 games.
Crazy. Yeah, they're
I'm expecting them to score with that defense, because I don't know if Fussie's fine. I don't know if Andre's
he's not fine. He's not fine either.
Bro, he looked like his leg died on the field.
Well, when I was there, literally both of them couldn't stand. They literally could not stand if they tried. And it's both terrible knee injuries from what it looked like. And obviously we wish them the best, but those are 2 huge losses. And I just forgot about that. So that's tough, man. I think that they were both season-ending injuries. I genuinely think they were that bad. But we'll see what happens when they come out with all the news and stuff. But yeah, I think my winner.
Just don't see it going any other way.
I did have Leinster finally winning. I think I said it. I'll have to go back and see, but I think I had Leinster winning both.
Oh, they're doing the double.
Oh, yeah,
spicy cool. The people out here will love you.
I mean, it's only fair because look, I can't even call a game between Toulouse and Leinster at the moment, because you look at one team and you're like, that team could literally be a national team on its own. And then you look at the other team and you think, okay, no, but they could be a national team on their own. So I'm going to say Leinster because I think that's what I said in the beginning, and I'll stick with that. But I do expect it to be a Leinster-Toulouse final. Unless they meet each other somewhere else, then it can't happen. But yeah, I think those are the 2 teams that probably deserve, or we can only say that once we get there, but will kind of at the moment look like they deserve to be there. And yeah, I'll go Leinster just because, like I said, that team is incredible. And so is Toulouse, but I think just the 2 additions of Geordie Barrett and Ashley Snyman is just, I think it was the best thing they could have done. And now they have Jacques Nienaber in and around the coaching, and I think that will really help them as well. So I'll back them to do it.
Yeah. Okay, people. So we just needed to take a little tissue break out there. We are in prime survival mode. What a way to start the year.
Crazy.
Let's quickly move on to British and Irish Lions. I don't think this needs to be a long discussion, and then we could quickly going on to our 3 differential awards. Is it as straightforward as it might seem on paper where the British and Irish Lions take it, or do you reckon Joe Schmidt and that Wallaby team have something up their sleeves?
First of all, I'll start by saying I think the British and Irish Lions win the first 2 games. And then whether they give the kind of outside squad time in a test rather than playing a full strength in the third, I don't know. But if they play full strength all 3, I cannot see Australia winning 1 game. Not purely because I've seen improvement from Australia. I just think there's still a lot more to improve on. And they jump straight into that. It's not like they play the Rugby Championship and then they play the series against British and Irish Lions. They play the British and Irish Lions series first. So they will have no time to kind of, they might have a few warm-up games against, I don't know who they'll play, but they'll probably need it. But I
Don't you
don't
reckon
know.
they
I
do
think,
what South Africa did where the British and Irish Lions played a South African A side, but we kind of stacked a lot of our first team boys in that team just to get some game time?
yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But like realistically, if I don't, we could afford to do that, right? Because I think if Australia does that and they get beat, I kind of think like, does that give them any kind of hope going into the series at all? So I think they need to find alternative ways to kind of get, even if they play against a Reds, a Brumbies, or whoever it is, I think they need to find, because I remember um, the SAA team played against the Bulls, if I'm not mistaken, in the last series that came here, and the Bulls actually won that game, but it gave some people some game time. But we'll see. But yeah, I think Swahili is like the kind of the only guy that's really convincing me at the moment. And even that, I think he's still got a lot to do to kind of prove himself. So I don't know. I'm still waiting to see the spark. We did see a bit, but I'm still waiting to see something more from Australia. And yeah, I'm worried. I can't lie. I do think it's going to be a 3-0 if full strength is played throughout all 3 games. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't want to be negative Nancy for
I
Australia.
guarantee you Australia wins 1. I reckon they do 1. They've got good records at home, whether it's at Brisbane or whatever, right? They've got good records, and I think their crowds will be a bit more up for it. The British and Irish Lions, you just never know, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at a couple of guys, I think Fraser McWright's going to have a big year. Him coming back, if they have him for a full season, Angus Bell just kicking on.
Valentini,
Yeah, they've got a good team. The depth has always been the issue for me. The guys that come off the bench. But if they have, I know this is always a caveat, but if they kind of have an injury-free international team, they can do massive things. That's what I'm thinking, right? Because you also have to remember the British and Irish Lions. Yeah, they play a couple of games together before they go into that. They might play against the Reds or the Brumbies or the Western Force or whatever. That's also just a team kind of thrown together, and they've got a month or 2 to prepare and then start playing their matches. Those games, there could be injuries in those games because they'll probably want to test out some combinations there. And if you look at the growth of this Australian team, yeah, obviously right until that Scotland game, but there is a couple of caveats surrounding that. This could be tighter than we think, but I guarantee Australia win 1. But I do believe that the British and Irish Lions win the tour. I wouldn't be surprised if Australia actually wins it. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow British and Irish Lions takes it 3-0. I think this is all up in the air because it's such, unless Andy Farrell decides, listen, we're going to choose literally all our Irish boys. But then you also think, right, because I literally just remembered how close did Australia pull Ireland? Remember that?
Yeah.
And that was an Irish team that had a point to prove, right? And they still, Australia pulled it close. I think the way that Australia plays, they can beat any team.
Yeah, well, look, I hope so. That's for sure. I mean, we've always wanted Australia to find themselves again. But yeah, I don't. Hopefully, Andy Farrell can see further than his nose and see like guys like Tuipulotu who cannot be excluded from that team. I think Hugh Jones is very crucial. I think, I mean, even Lawrence from England put up his hand against the Springboks from what I saw, and the other games. So there's a lot of guys in that team where I don't just think on Ireland, you know. I think they've done well, kind of to find some other players from other nations. You know, Wales maybe not, but definitely England and Scotland and Ireland. I think there's a decent mixture there. You can say Jack Morgan, but I personally don't think he'll start at all. So yeah, it will be interesting. But with that being said, I'm just going based off what I've seen so far, and we could see a completely different Australian team. You know, we could see an Australian team that just comes out and they look the part, you know, because sometimes it just takes that little bit of a season to get used to. Because obviously, look, Rassie came in and even he had a lot to fix and he struggled at times. But obviously he started getting the results, but we saw that the defense was still very shaky. So it took him time to fix it. So we'll see what Joe Smith can do. And if Australia can win at least one game within the first two tests, I think they've done very well, and I think they can be proud of themselves.
Okay. Player to watch. No, let's do player of the year. Right, we don't need to get into massive discussions around that, but it is British and Irish Lions, and because I believe they will win it, I think that just adds a little bit of spice to what I'm about to say. I've got a little curveball who I think will be player of the year. I've got him from the Northern Hemisphere. I've got him winning the Six Nations. I've got him winning the British and Irish Lions Tour. And then obviously end of year, he'll probably have to do pretty well. I've got Jamison Gibson Park. Since he's been looking like Andrew Tate, bro, he has been playing some, even before that, obviously, but he's been playing some serious rugby. You look at that game against New Zealand, stand out. That guy is unbelievable. Now, whether I think he's better than DuPont or whatever, that doesn't matter, right? I just think with the accolades and the way that he plays, I've got Jamison Gibson Park taking player of the year from Ireland.
Ooh, that is interesting. It's not a bad shot because there's no denying how great Jamison Gibson Park is. Absolutely phenomenal player, and yeah, ever since he's shaved that hair, you know, he's just evolved like to 2.0. So he's been absolutely incredible. But I'm also going to go with another scrum off, and this is a pretty obvious shout. But like I said, I'm coming back to this when I said that I think he kind of guides France to winning the Six Nations. Obviously, he won't be a part of the British and Irish Lions tour, but I do expect Antoine Dupont to have an incredible season of rugby. He's obviously missed a lot of 15-man rugby last year in 2024. And I do expect him to be right up there, competing, being the best that he can. And I'm going to say Antoine Dupont wins Player of the Year for if I'm not mistaken, second time.
Yeah, I think he's only won it once.
Yeah, so I do expect him to win it. Some wild shouts. We could say I expect. I don't know. I do expect to see a Safa up there. Who it will be, I don't know. It's either going to be Cheslin again, or maybe if Peter Stepp stays at it, maybe he's up there again. But I don't see a Safa winning it again. We don't often win Player of the Years. We just have a very good team, you know. And yeah, I just expect Dupont to be on another level this year. And it's scary to think that he can get even better than what he is. But I do think he does get better because if you look at the best sportsmen in the world, like Ronaldo, Messi, Floyd Mayweather, these guys have like this mentality to just, win everything, be relentless, be ruthless, never give up. And I see DuPont being that guy, winning mentality, hates losing. So I expect him to be completely on another level this year. So DuPont for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Listen, there will be a lot of Cephas that just hate on the guy, right? Because of all the hype that he gets.
Yeah.
We do believe that. My point is just that the guy's overhyped because every time he touches the ball, that's why he's the best in the world.
Yeah,
But you can't take
absolutely.
away. You can't take away from his greatness. Listen, the guy is so skillful. He might be the most talented player in the world. Like kicking right foot, left foot. His pass is crazy. He's got pace. He's very strong. He's great over the ball. The guy's elite, right? So I do not hate that shot at all. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to him, but I just think with the British and Irish Lions, but I feel like that's almost the deciding factor in my decision that I'm
I don't
making.
know though, and the reason I say I don't know is because, and this isn't disrespect to Australia, but right now we know Australia is not what Australia is meant to be, and that's where I think a caveat gets put there. Like, yes, they won the British and Irish Lions series, but it was against Australia. But we'll
People
see.
aren't going to see it as they won the British and Irish Lions to it, but it's that Australia. They're just going to see we won the British and Irish Lions against Australia.
Yeah, true. But yeah, I think ultimately two great players, and the two best scrum halves in the world, and arguably going to be the two best players in the world. So we'll see.
Players to watch. We've got world, and we've got South Africa, and we'll wrap it up on that before people get bored of us, if they're not already bored of us. Us sneezing and coughing all over the place. I've actually got two for South Africa. One is my real one. Other one is just kind of a hope. I'll give you my hope one first. Is he really a player to watch? Or he's not going to be a breakthrough player or anything, of course. But Damian Willemse coming back, injury free this time around. No, but the reason that I'm bringing it up is I feel like people have kind of forgot about Damian Willemse and how good he really is, right? Because we saw how good Fassi was when he put on that 15 jersey. Obviously, we all love and adore Damian Willems, Willie Leroux. But you know the impact that Damian Willems makes in that Stormers team. Like, he brings you something totally different. It always feels like he's the best player on the park. And I think he takes that 15 jersey again and says, "Did you miss me, a little bitch?" That's what he's going to do. Give everyone a little tap on their back and say, "This is my jersey." I believe Damian Willemse is the greatest player to ever play this game. And if he stays injury-free, he's going to have an absolutely massive year. But anyway, on my serious note, my player to watch, I would love for him to get a debut for the Springboks. Even that game against the Stormers, playing on the wing, that's not even his position. Ethan Hooker. That guy is an absolute beast. He is everywhere. Like, he was my man of the match in the losing team. That's how good he was. The guy, I don't see him make mistakes.
Yeah.
Watch out for Ethan Hooker.
I think there's a few. I'll also do a silly one, and then, well, not a silly one, but a one that I'll want to see really kind of take the Springbok jersey by the Horners. I'd love to see Cam Hanekom obviously get a better game in a Bok jersey and kind of assert himself into that squad. But obviously he's now burst onto the scene. He's no longer this guy where like he's one to watch. It's one that you do watch because I'm sure after Northampton had to deal with him and everything like that, and the Sharks, whatever, I think they all realize how good that guy is. But someone else, I think Dan Creel is one. I'd love to see him kind of take another step further because I think he's been very good. But I think one also needs to stay injury free and needs to because I kind of look at our 13s and I think Jesse's obviously Jesse's a freak of nature. The guy is fit. He's got 0% body fat. He looks after himself. But eventually, your rugby will always kind of go slowly down, and it's normal. And and Jesse are getting on the older side, so I'd love to see Henk van Wyk take 2025 by the horns and just stay injury free and see him get a Bok debut and see what he can do, because I think we're crying for a youngster to come into. Well, obviously we have Sasha, Dave Willems is still young, but Hanekom's young. But I'd love to see Henk van Wyk, finally get that chance and see if he takes it. It will be good for the Lions. It would be good for South African rugby. So yeah, I want to see Henk van Wyk really, take it by the horns. But we'll see. Injury free pending.
For me, on the ones to watch for the world, well, firstly, just like a honorable mention, Sam Prendergast. I'm excited to see what they do with him. Does he take that 10 jersey? Do they say, okay, listen, screw it, we're going very young, put him in that 10 jersey for 10, 12 years, whatever. I'm very excited, but obviously you've got that battle between Crowley, Frawley, and Sam Prendergast. So I'm very excited to see what happens with Prendergast. But my player to watch for this year in the world, and that's why I reckon they'll also do well against the British and Irish Lions tour. I've got Fraser McWright. I think we've kind of forgot how good this guy is because of his injuries. Immediately when he came back, those games against the All Blacks, he was so good. He is so good. I reckon he is the best. Well, Peter Steph should actually be playing 6. So the best 7 in the world. That's how good he is. Like, the guy's a dog. He's absolutely everywhere. And I think if he has a massive year, he switches the game for you against the British and Irish Lions. He gives them a bit of hope going up against Argentina, New Zealand, South Africa. He's that big. It's kind of the same effect as Jack Morgan has on Wales. You just feel like they're a bit of a different team because he's the threat in literally everything.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have a few. Just like honorable mentions, I think Satiti, look out for this guy. He's a phenomenal player. I fully expect him to take even more leaps and bounds forward, making New Zealand even better. Waboso, I think, also a phenomenal player. Let's see what he can do. I think Marcus Smith is another one. Watch out for what that kid can do. Very talented player. I think if he has a good England season, could be a different ball game. But I'm going to go with someone who is not even, most people might not even know of this guy. But I've known about him for quite a while. He plays for Northampton Saints. Henry Pollock. This guy is insanely good. I think he's 19 years of age. He literally still looks like a kid. You can see it in his face, but I cannot tell you how talented this guy is. Like 19 years old, leg driving,
full player of the year.
I asked my mates and I said, do you think he even makes his England debut? And he was like, it depends. He's still young. And I was like, oh, screw it. I think this guy makes his debut this year. Maybe even gets a couple games. But he's doing so well for Saints at the moment. And he's just so good. Like, I can't fault him at anything at the moment. And I think if he gets a couple games in an England jersey, I think he is well up there for Breakthrough Player of the Year. And if you haven't seen Henry Pollock, I suggest you go and watch this kid. He is insane. And I'm going to say Henry Pollock just because of what I saw at Loftus when I was there, and just what I've seen from him as well. A great player. And obviously there's tons of others, but we can go on until you guys are sick of us, which I'm sure you already are. But yeah, I'm going to go Henry Pollock. Yeah.
Fair enough. That wraps it up for our year predictions, 2025 predictions. Let us know in the comment section. Literally take all of our categories that we had and say who you think will be the winners and wooden spooners of them all. We will take our snolly noses and get out of your ears. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please do remember to like and subscribe. It's good to be back, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.